Chapter 996. Deliberate Provocation. All of Lin Yi's persuasion couldn't calm Lu Shilan down. However, what else could he do? Even if he made a huge scene on stage, he couldn't alter the results of the match. That would probably only get them thrown out of the stadium by the security. Lin Yi felt that he could no longer communicate with this guy. He could only take the rest of the players back to their seats. However, when he looked over, boss Xiao Jia also had an angry look on his face. You guys go back to clean this stuff up. Leave me alone. Xiao Jia pointed towards a group of players off stage. As soon as he said this, he turned and left without looking back. Lin Yi and the others looked distressed. After staying in Jade Dynasty for this long, they had only thought about going their separate ways in the event that the team was unable to go on. Yet, they had never considered a result like what had happened today. None of them could be considered extremely strong players. Without this kind of team, they might never be able to become pro players again. Lin Yi sighed. For them, this competition had only decided whether the team lived or died. However, Lu Shilan was actually acting like it was the end of the world. Indeed, this was also a type of mockery. After Xiao Jia left, he disappeared in the blink of an eye, walking away without looking back once. Jade Dynasty's players had definitely seen their end as pro players, and their hearts ached. However, at this time no one went up to the boss to beg or give an explanation. After a year of getting to know each other, they knew what type of personality their boss had. His conceitedness made it so that he wouldn't go back on his word even when he knew he was wrong. Lin Yi stood in place in a daze. He didn't chase after his boss, nor did he immediately leave. Instead, he turned around and walked towards Happy. Seeing Happy celebrate made Jade Dynasty's players feel envious. When Happy saw Lin Yi head towards them, everyone in Happy restrained their emotions. They should show empathy towards the feelings of the losers. That was a good match. Lin Yi extended his hands towards Yi Shu. Even if that loss spelled the end of his career, Lin Yi didn't lose the professionalism he should have. The respects paid to each other by the team captains before and after the match were too often just for show, but Lin Yi remembering to do this even with this kind of outcome showed his sincerity. Thanks. Yi Shu shook his hand. Don't give up. Keep working hard. I want to. Lin Yi forced a smile. I'm only afraid that there won't be any more opportunities for us. Everyone in Happy was startled. Chen Guo pointed towards Xiao Jia disappearing into the passageway. Could it be that those words weren't just out of anger? They had seen Xiao Jia flare up at them. The match had just ended though. In the time it took to raise his hands, he disbanded the team under everyone's eyes. Who would easily accept such words? As a result, they just treated those words as a burst of anger from Xiao Jia. However, from what Lin Yi seemed to imply, those weren't empty words. I hope we'll have a chance to meet again in the future. I wish you all good luck. After Lin Yi finished speaking, he turned around and got ready to leave. Wait, Chen Guo suddenly jumped out and shouted towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi stopped his footsteps and turned his head. Those weren't just words of anger from your boss? Chen Guo was still pondering over this issue. She couldn't believe someone would handle things so unreasonably. I'm afraid not, Lin Yi quietly said. Then what do you guys plan to do in the future? Chen Guo asked. I don't know yet. For players at our skill level, we probably won't get any offers from teams. Lin Yi laughed at himself. Today's match is probably our final match. Chen Guo hesitated. She appeared to be thinking over how to word her reply as she turned her head to look at Yi Shu. Our boss is trying to say that if you guys don't have any way out, you guys can come over to Happy for now. Yi Shu spoke for her. Lin Yi was shocked. But, I'm afraid you probably won't have the chance to be a team member. There are still a few suitable positions related to glory work, Yi Shu said. Lin Yi listened and understood. They were all people from the same scene. How could he not understand Yi Shu's implications? These positions were what many retired pro players hoped for. After all, glory was what they were best at, but the problem was that Jade Dynasty's players weren't at the point where they wanted to retire yet. If the circumstances allowed it, they were more than willing to continue as a pro player and compete on stage. Even though they knew their skill levels were limited, they felt like it was still too early for them to be certain that they had no room for improvement. If Lu Shilan was here, he would probably immediately jump out and question it. What do you mean? Are you saying that I'm not good enough to be a pro and that I'm only good enough to do miscellaneous tasks? However, Lin Yi knew that the other side had good intentions. Perhaps only a team of old players like Yi Shu, Wei Chen, and Sun Jeping would truly understand and sympathize with such players, who were at the end of their road. Thanks, Lin Yi first expressed his gratitude, but I think it's best if I discuss this with my brothers first before coming to a decision. No problem, Chen Guo nodded her head, leave me your contact info. The two exchanged contact info. Lin Yi thanked them once more and then turned around to return to his teammates. As they left, they constantly turned to look towards Happy. Their expressions were filled with surprise. Lin Yi had clearly told them about Happy's intentions. Lu Shilin was still petrified on stage like a statue. He stared blankly at this scene. Suddenly, he woke up and jumped down like a madman, pointing at the departing Jade Dynasty. Then, he pointed at Happy and shouted, "Good. I get it now. You guys were working in collusion with each other. You guys have already been bribed, which was why you guys intentionally performed poorly in this match. Too despicable. I'm going to complain. Referee. Where's the referee?" This guy had gone absolutely mad. He actually thought that a normal conversation between the two sides was a shady business deal. Such a grand line of thinking made everyone surprised. Even the experienced Yi Shu had never seen such an extreme person before. F***CK, what's with this guy? Steamed bun, it's time for you to shine, Wei Chen responded and immediately cursed. Okay, Steamed bun jumped out bravely, how should I do it? Kill him? Stop, Yi Shu hastily stopped him. What? You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it. Lu Shilin looked as if he had found a magic treasure that could reverse the situation and furiously retorted. Don't stop me. I'm about to cripple this shameless B*****. Wei Chen couldn't bear it anymore and was prepared to personally take action. Lin Yi and the others were about to leave, when they heard Lu Shilin lose his mind. Xiao Jia had already disbanded the team, but in the end, Lu Shilin was still one of their teammates. They saw this guy causing trouble and even thought of himself as correct. He actually accused them of playing a fixed match. They couldn't help but get angry. Jade Dynasty's players came back, ready to drag Lu Shilin away. Let go of me. You shameless B*****. Don't you have any sense of professionalism? Lu Shilin did everything he could to break free as he cursed at his teammates. The expressions on the players of Jade Dynasty were ashen. If they really had no professionalism, they would have already beaten Lu Shilin to death. Just look at Team Happy's Wei Chen. Wasn't he already preparing to come over and beat him up? The crowd went into an uproar, but because they were rather far away, they could only see it happening. They couldn't hear what the two sides were saying. It looked like Team Jade Dynasty had gotten into a dispute with Team Happy. In the end, Yi Shu was the most experienced. He didn't attack the unreasonable Lu Shilin, nor did he try and reason with him. He blocked Wei Chen, while shouting left and right, "Security! Security, help! There's someone here who refuses to acknowledge that he's lost the match." As he shouted, someone laughed. When he looked at Lu Shilin, he felt like he wasn't that annoying anymore. He was just a brat who didn't get what he wanted. The security guards noticed these movements and rushed over. Not even half a minute after Yi Shu started yelling, they had reached the scene. Yi Shu and the others hadn't even said anything to them yet, when Lu Shilin looked as if he was clutching onto his last hope as he grabbed the security guard's hand. "I'm going to report them. These guys colluded to play a fixed match." Everyone slapped their hands to their foreheads. The alliance obviously had a disciplinary committee to handle these matters and there were means to make a report, but the security was not responsible for it. These two systems were completely unrelated. The security guard was experienced at dealing with these issues. After being grabbed onto by Lu Shilin, he didn't force him off. Instead, he warmly encouraged him, Okay. Calm down first. Here, speak slowly. It's like this." Sure enough, Lu Shilin started talking. Then, Happy and Jade Dynasty watched as this noisy kid was escorted out by the security guard. He got his life saved, Wei Chen said with certainty. Yi Shu didn't bother with this braggart. Lin Yi's group said farewell to Happy again. This time, Happy was ready to leave too. Chen Guo boldly walked towards Seven Fields and the others, who were staring foolishly at what they had just witnessed, and waved, "Let's go celebrate our victory." Tonight, Team Happy had a reason to relax. It had been a long and arduous journey, but they had finally reached the final step. Next up was Team Happy's goal for this entire year, Team Excellent Era. Excellent Era had arrogantly left, not waiting to see the results. After they left the stadium, before they could even sit together at the hotel, they already got the news. Team Happy had won and would be their opponents at the finals. That fast, everyone in Excellent Era was shocked, seeing the time. Even though J Dynasty was a weak team in their eyes, wouldn't Happy also count as a weak team on the same level as them? Yet Happy beat them in such an overwhelming manner? On the way back to the hotel, no one in the team talked about the upcoming finals. This was a rare scene. Chapter 997. Excellent Era's exclusive interview. The Challenger League had finally reached its last stages. 2 days after the match against Team J Dynasty, the media began to harass Team Happy, all wanting to interview Yi Shu. The finals of the Challenger League. The showdown between Team Excellent Era's ex-captain and Team Excellent Era for the right to return to the Pro League. For such a spectacular topic, even the Pro League matches could be pushed to the side. And within this topic, the most exciting aspect was Team Happy's exceptional performance. This built up anticipation for the possibility of a task once thought impossible. Happy's strength wasn't nearly as bad as people had thought. If you took a look at the victories they had scored in the Challenger League all the way until now, almost all of them were one-sided victories. Among these defeated opponents, there was Everlasting, Mysterious Fantasy and J Dynasty, these three pro-level teams. Even though these three were all very weak pro teams, they hadn't been a threat to Team Happy at all. In other words, Happy's strength was far above theirs. Them challenging Excellent Era wasn't arrogant or absurd. The winds were changing. At the beginning, everyone thought that Happy was just looking for death, wanting attention, shameless, but now more and more people began to become interested in Happy, eager and expectant for what they would do next. This sort of enthusiasm was real and not just people who wanted to see Excellent Era fall and therefore supported Happy, like it was in the beginning. Back then, their support of Happy was just to embarrass Excellent Era. Truthfully, they didn't believe Happy could threaten Excellent Era. However, now their support was more and more real because they began to acknowledge Happy's strength. This would, without doubt, make them even more anticipatory, because now there was an even bigger chance of seeing Excellent Era get humiliated. Some reporters went in-game and randomly interviewed random Glory players, asking them about their thoughts on this match. After asking several hundred people, they compiled their results and surprisingly found that the number of players supporting Happy exceeded the number of players supporting Excellent Era, a whole 68%. And when the reporters asked for their reason in supporting Happy, the gist of it was a single sentence: it's fun to watch the drama unfold. From this point of view, a newly brought-up army, a team that came from an internet cafe, defeating the Glory powerhouse Excellent Era was evidently more unexpected and more interesting than Excellent Era winning. An upset was very attractive to many people. However, this was only a hope. Another media outlet also went around interviewing random players and didn't ask for hopes, but estimations. In this round of questioning, Excellent Era was far in the lead. 91% of players estimated that Excellent Era would win the match, even though many of them had said they hoped Happy would win. On the Monday issue of Esports Homes Weekly, these two interesting results were discussed together. At the same time, Esports Home also had what each thought of the upcoming match. This was something other media outlets didn't have. On the weekend, both teams were harassed by many different reporters from different media outlets, but both teams rejected interviews. After that, they went to the reporter they were familiar with to have a chat. Excellent Era had Cao Guangcheng, while Happy had Cheng Xian. The two reporters that had practically been silenced because of Excellent Era being relegated, now had monopoly of all the best resources. Esports Home had resolutely expressed that the final match of the Challenger League had to be fully and comprehensively reported on, even if that meant giving it a portion of the sections reserved for the Pro League, which was just finishing up and in its most crucial moments. As for the Alliance, they also placed great importance on this Challenger League match that was the most popular one yet. On the weekend, they had been extremely busy. After talking things over among themselves and contacting the necessary outside parties, they made a last-minute change to the location of this final battle. To better present this match that had captured so much attention, the Alliance decided to move the finals to the Liulisang Sports Arena in the north sector of the city. The largest difference between this stadium and the last was that it was fully equipped with holographic projectors. The alliance had decided that the finals of the Challenger League would receive the same treatment as Pro League matches, and that meant displaying it through the holographic projection technology to the audience. This aspect was added mostly for the audience. There wasn't any difference for the two competing teams. The holographic projectors just changed the way the match was shown. For the participants, they were still in the player booths, sitting and competing in front of their computer screens. They couldn't see the holographic projections. That was an omniscient view. However, the media to the alliance to the passion of the normal players clearly showed that the amount of attention this Challenger League match was receiving was unprecedented. It wasn't just because there was a powerhouse superstar team like Excellent Era present. To be honest, the reason it could attract so much attention was mostly because of the drama Happy had created. As the match approached, how did each side see things? This was what the media was looking for and what the players were curious about. So, on the Monday issue of Esports Home, they found their answer. In the interview with Excellent Era, Happy hadn't been mentioned even once. What Excellent Era was so fixated on discussing was just one name, Yi Chu. Yi Chu is a good captain. When Excellent Era's boss, Dao Zhan, spoke of this, his expression was tinged with complicated emotions. He asked the journalist for a cigarette, and from what the journalist knows, Boss Dao had already quit for a while now. That's what the reporter, Cao Guangcheng, had written in the interview with Excellent Era. Yi Chu is a good captain, very impressive. He's brought an honor onto Excellent Era that no one has managed to surpass. This is something that we can't deny. If possible, I really hope that Yi Chu and Excellent Era could be frozen in that perfect moment in time and continue that way forever. Unfortunately, nothing in this world stays the same. The alliance develops, glory moves forwards, we also have to keep moving forward. If we stand still and isolate ourselves, then I feel that we would have trouble keeping our competitiveness. Excellent Era is actually a very good example of this. After getting our 3 consecutive championships, we couldn't keep surpassing our limits, only hoping to keep our current pace. Yet that led to us watching as the other teams caught up one by one, snatching the championship from our hands. So in these years, Excellent Era has always been pursuing change. I hope we can find a way to survive that better suits the current situation of the alliance. That's the only way to allow Excellent Era's continued and stable development. This sort of change, naturally, requires a cost. I had mentally prepared myself for this, but to be honest, I hadn't thought Excellent Era would be relegated. Being relegated was an accident, but what I say is that everything has its pros and cons. The year of rest we got after being relegated might just be the relaxed atmosphere we need to turn things back around for ourselves. Excellent Era might not be in the alliance anymore, but if you ask me, I think Excellent Era is always looking forwards, positive, never giving up. No matter where we are, we only have one goal, the championship. We will never give up on working towards the championship. However, the road to this goal is longer than usual this time. We have to start from the Challenger League, and here, we met the greatest player we at Excellent Era have ever had, Yi Chu. Yet now he's our opponent. To be honest, this is more surprising to me than Excellent Era being relegated. Recently I've heard people from other teams say, and of course, our reporter friends ask me, saying everyone is very curious, wondering if Yi Chu had a spat with Excellent Era. Otherwise, why would he suddenly come back after retiring and go against Excellent Era in the Challenger League? Hey, why Yi Chu suddenly retired and suddenly came back? I think you should ask Yi Chu this question. Though I'm close with him, I'm not a part of his mind. Of course, I understand everyone's troubles. Yi Chu never accepts interviews from the media, so getting an answer from him is practically impossible. How he thinks about this exactly, I can't really guess, but I believe that I can tell everyone for certain that Excellent Era and Yi Chu have no bad blood between them. Whenever there's a fluctuation in performance or rumors of transferring in the teams today, it'll always come with guesses like that. But in reality, it's baseless rumors. Excellent Era and Yi Chu have no bad blood between them, but if you want to say we have some differences in opinion, that's true. Like if I say snails are delicious and you say pork is delicious. Can these differences in opinion be called bad blood? These differences in opinion exist wherever people exist, so I won't go on about it. Now Yi Chu is our opponent, and to be truthful I'm still not very used to this situation. How did Yi Chu become our opponent? But this is alright, I respect his decisions. This time, let's battle it out as opponents. Of course, if he okay with it, I wouldn't mind going out for a drink together after the match. Excellent Era's interview was attended personally by their boss. This was extremely rare. And in the interview, Excellent Era's boss seemed to have completely opened himself up, confidently, eagerly, and directly answering many of the questions everyone had about Excellent Era and Yi Chu. The only question he avoided was why Yi Chu came to the Challenger League to face off against Excellent Era. He kicked that question to Yi Chu for him to answer. Those who were kept in the dark naturally would come after Yi Chu for questions, but those who knew wanted to flip the table in rage. For example, Chen Guo. Shameless, Chen Guo slapped the newspaper onto the desk harshly, as if she was hitting Dao Zhan with this slap. Dao Zhan had answered all the nice things and thrown the one trapped question right to Yi Chu. That was such a sly move. Chapter 998. A storm is coming. Excellent Era's boss Dao Zhan personally accepted an interview. This was definitely giving them enough face. However, after compiling the draft, Cao Guangqing had experienced the cunning and intelligence of a boss-level figure. In the interview, Dao Zhan fully expressed his and Excellent Era's tolerance and understanding of Yi Chu's actions, but it was this move that was a needle hidden in silk. Excellent Era was so understanding and generous to Yi Chu, but Yi Chu had led a team against them into the Challenger League, ready to fight to the death with them. With this, their images in the eyes of the public were clear. The only words, apart from traitorous, that could be used to describe Yi Chu's actions was biting the hand that fed him. Spectacular. Cao Guangqing couldn't help but exclaim to himself as he compiled the draft. So, how would Happy deal with this? Though Excellent Era and Happy weren't sitting face to face together, one couldn't forget that the reporters interviewing the teams were all from esports home. They could easily guide the interview in any way they wanted to, and they could make the two interviews match each other. Cao Guangqing was responsible for Excellent Era's side. He was only disappointed at not being able to interview Happy himself, getting Chang Xian to go for him. Yet when Chang San came back and compiled his draft for Cao Guangqing to see, Cao Guangqing was furious. In Chang Xian's draft, he saw that the other had written, when the past was brought up, Captain Yi Chu smiled and then lit a cigarette before eagerly beginning to chat with the journalist. As expected, a famous teacher trains a fine student. This saying was extremely similar to the situation where he wrote about Dao Zhan asking the journalist for a cigarette. However, under the same situation, Dao Zhan had made a needle in the cotton move, while Yi Chu kicked his legs up and said, no comment. Cao Guangqing wanted to slam the desk and scold Chang Xian for this, then he'd be able to finally get everything he was holding in regarding Chang Xian off his chest. However, Cao Guangqing knew very clearly, this wasn't that Chang Xian didn't put effort in, but that his interviewee wouldn't cooperate, avoiding the topic. If it was so simple to get what you wanted to know, then a journalist career would be far too easy. This draft gave Cao Guangqing sufficient reason to doubt Chang Xian's ability for a while. Despite being doubtful, he still had to use the draft. Even though it hadn't captured the point, this was still an exclusive interview. Currently, only Chang Xian could successfully interview Team Happy. The two reporters that were sent specifically to report on the Challenger League had become especially awkward once the tournament had reached the finals. That was because the two finalist teams didn't accept interviews from just anyone, forcing them to join the other reporters and media, lying in wait to ambush the team's players for just a few questions here and there like paparazzi. Compared to the amalgamation of what scraps they could pick up, God knows how much better Chang Xian's draft was. However, Cao Guangqing was already prepared for the harsh scolding he was bound to get when turning these drafts into the editor-in-chief. As expected, not even an hour after the drafts were given in, the editor-in-chief called Cao Guangqing's mobile, and unleashed a torrent of curses at him. Although the draft that wasn't up to standard was Chang Xian's, the editor-in-chief's first sentence was, "Little Chang is a newbie, so it's natural that he might not be able to do well, but are you a newbie, too?" Like how Cao Guangqing ignored how hard it would be for Chang Xian to talk Yi Chu into giving up information, the editor-in-chief also ignored how Cao Guangqing didn't have any control whatsoever over the interview Chang Xian did with Happy, and slammed the big black pan onto his head asterisk. However, the end result was the same as Cao Guangqing scolding Chang Xian. Though he had gotten shit for it, the draft still had to be used. They had hoped that they could get some tension and drama between the two sides, but in the end, one talked about the weather while the other focused on the food. In the end, Chang Xian's interview of Team Happy deepened everyone's understanding of Team Happy as a team, while Dao Zan's personal interview once again stirred up a wave of hatred for Yi Chu among Excellent Era fans. The continuous implications resulted many uncertain Excellent Era fans, who thought that there might be more to the story, resolutely standing to the side of their team. In the next few days, Chen Guo didn't dare look at the discussions going on online regarding this topic. Sei was afraid that if she did, she'd die of anger. It was a good thing that the atmosphere in the team was stable, and Yi Shu was as calm as always. This time, Chen Guo didn't get mad at Yi Shu for being so calm. The finals were approaching and she was grateful for Yi Shu's attitude, otherwise if he was easy to anger as she was, he'd have his mind in chaos and wouldn't be able to compete properly. Yes, compete. The current Yi Shu was completely focused on the finals. These days, he was often discussing things with Wei Chen, with Sun Jeping, with all the members of the team. This wasn't a last-minute effort. They had started preparing to defeat Excellent Era from summer last year, when Excellent Era was relegated. Glory had an online game as its foundations, and this made it so that it wasn't just the tens of minutes on stage of one's performance that would influence the final result. A minute on stage hid 10 years of work. This saying was more or less appropriate for Glory as well. In this year, after putting everything they had into these behind-the-scenes work, the tens of minutes on stage was about arrived. When it came down to it, everything depended on these tens of minutes. No matter how well you prepared, how much effort you put, if you didn't perform to your best in these few minutes, everything would be for nothing. How would Team Happy face this final battle? Chen Guo didn't even know. All she knew was that this was what Yi Shu had been talking to the others about recently. Some, she heard, some she didn't, but she never went and asked. She hoped that Yi Shu could focus his time and effort completely on the competition. There was no need for him to explain anything to her. At this time, Chen Guo seemed like the person in Team Happy with the least to do. Though she was usually passionate and energetic, she didn't seem to have any intentions on joining in anytime soon. What she could do now was make sure to not bother anyone. With this, she felt content and not at all left out or lonely. Seeing everyone so busy, she only felt security and warmth. At times like these, Chen Guo was reminded of another person, a person who was currently in enemy territory. Su Mucheng. What was she feeling now? Was she like the members of Happy, doing her best in preparation for the match? Though Chen Guo hated Excellent Era now, she wouldn't find any wrong in it. This was the professionalism a pro player should show. They should put their best efforts into any match. Though a lot of uninvolved people tried to place many unneeded expectations and implications onto this match, Chen Guo could clearly see from Yi Shu, every day, that Yi Shu didn't care at all about anything outside of the match itself. Taking revenge because he had been forced to retire? He wasn't doing that. Having conflicted emotions because he couldn't bring himself to fully cut ties with Excellent Era? He didn't have that either. Yes, that's how it was. There was no good or bad, it seemed cold and cruel, but he faced glory and competition with this honest attitude. This was the oldest god of glory in her eyes, and with just this, Chen Guo felt that her years of being his fan hadn't gone to waste. This was someone worth respecting with all your heart because he could do what no one else could. For example, Chen Guo understood this logic and approved of this attitude, but she just wasn't able to accomplish it herself. She was unable to face Excellent Era with a calm heart. Thinking of what Excellent Era had done to Yi Chu, she would just love to see Happy rip them apart 100 times, and them tearfully kneeling in regret beside them. Time went on, day by day, and the match day was getting closer and closer. Chen Guo made sure to take over anything that could disturb the others, while doing a good job on staring into space. Even if Chang Xian came over during this time, he would only be able to interact with Chen Guo, and when he saw Chen Guo's seriousness, Chang Xian didn't dare to bother the other members of Happy. Friday, match day. Esports Home released an issue. Team Happy and Team Excellent Era's face-off in the Challenger League finally made the headlines on Esports Home's weekly issue, the topic bigger than any of the pro matches that were due to happen the following day. On those headlines, the two words, Yi Chu, were even larger than Happy. This was originally a fight between two teams, but for the media, who liked this sort of drama, focused on Yi Chu versus Excellent Era. If Happy didn't have Yi Chu, then no matter how talented they were, the fact that they were in the Challenger League meant that even at a time like this, they probably wouldn't be seen anywhere near the headlines. In this issue, the reporters at the front lines hadn't managed to get any first-hand information. Chang Xian didn't want to disturb them, and Excellent Era had also closed themselves off to train, so Cao Guangcheng couldn't approach them either. However, in this situation, it gave them room to express their own opinions, describing what they had seen and thought. Thus, that tension of a storm about to come was fanned and fueled to its highest by the two. The two reporters took note on what they had seen and heard, describing the two teams they had interacted with in the past few days, and placed that on the section left for the Challenger League. A costly section like the headlines obviously wouldn't have anything with actual, realistic content. It was usually just for the title to attract readers. Esports Home's Friday weekly issue was sent to the newsstands all across the city in the early morning, and it was at that time that Happy boarded the Alliance-arranged coach to the stadium. Although the match was in the evening, they had switched stadiums, so the teams had to warm up and familiarize themselves with the environment. After contacting Happy for their opinion, they sent someone over in the early morning to get Happy to the stadium for warm-up. Excellent Era also got the same call for their opinion and were currently also on their way over to the place where the final match was taking place, Liulisang Sports Arena. And then that's when the two teams met at the entrance to the stadium. Chapter 999. Warm Up. Hey, old Yi. The one to greet Happy wasn't a random person, but Excellent Era's boss, Dao Zhan. As he called out, he walked over briskly. His tone of voice and conduct didn't lack cordiality. For a moment, Chen Guo felt dazed. Had she confused him with someone else? Yi Shu smiled and waved. It could be considered a greeting. You guys came quite early, Dao Zhan smiled. You guys did too, Yi Shu said. Dao Zhan's gaze shifted towards the members of Team Happy, sizing them up. He was a senior member in the scene. Wei Chen, Sun Jeping. If he tried a bit, he could recognize them. However, as the boss of a powerhouse, he didn't need to waste his time trying to make friends with players past their prime, so he treated them the same as ordinary players. He nodded his head as a greeting to the rest of Happy. Who would have thought? Your team is quite interesting. Happy, right? I never noticed that our neighbor was a crouching tiger hidden dragon, Dao Zhan said and gave a smile towards his team. If their boss was smiling, how could they not do the same? All of the players in Team Excellent Era started smiling. After Dao Zhan was done talking, he didn't wait for anyone in Happy to give a reply. His eyes turned towards someone in Team Happy. Tang Ru. The only person in Team Happy who truly interested Dao Zhan was Tang Ru. However, Excellent Era's battle mage position was taken by their ace player, Sun Shang. Dao Zhan didn't have any intentions on replacing him. It was just that when he saw Tang Ru in Happy, he felt even more regretful than the other teams interested in Tang Ru. Miss Tang, it's nice to meet you. Dao Zhan ignored everyone else and specifically singled out Tang Ru. With Tang Ru's background, she was someone who had experienced many things. She could handle any situation. She gave a polite reply towards Dao Zhan's greeting. Then, she heard Dao Zhan say, Miss Tang, someone as talented as you definitely shouldn't stay buried. After this match, if you're interested, you can contact me at any time. This is my business card. Hey, what are you saying? Chen Guo was listening on the side and flared up. Dao Zhan's words implied that he considered everyone else beneath him. Not only was he trying to recruit her in front of everyone, he was also hinting that Happy losing the finals was set in stone. I'm not saying anything, Dao Zhan smiled. His tone of voice was confident and at ease because Tang Ru had already accepted his business card and nodded her head, saying thanks. That's enough chit-chat. I'll see you guys tonight, Dao Zhan called out to Excellent Era's players and started walking away. Excellent Era's players followed their boss. Not a single one glanced at Happy. Only Su Mucheng remained behind. She acted as if she didn't know and started talking to Yi Shu and the others. Dao Zhan obviously knew about it, but when he turned his head and saw this scene, he didn't say anything and left along with the others in Excellent Era. That guy is too infuriating. Why didn't you have any reaction? Chen Guo looked around. Yi Shu and Wei Chen were usually experts at making people angry. Why were they so calm? I just felt like it. Such a powerful boss personally ran over to talk some trash in front of us. It's not a trivial matter. I felt like I should give him some room to express himself, Wei Chen said in deadly earnest. Oh, who was that? And Wen Yi and Luo Ji asked curiously. Dao Zhan thought he was some top dog, but he forgot that he was too high up. Ordinary people wouldn't recognize him. His trash talk had been prepared quite meticulously, but unfortunately, he didn't think that there were people in Happy who didn't even recognize him. They just saw him give Tang Ru his business card. Is he a scout? If Wen Yi and Luo Ji had to make a guess, they would most likely give this answer. Chen Guo wasn't able to get angry. She pulled Su Muqing over and chatted about all sorts of things, but despite this being before a big match, she didn't mention glory even a single time. Chen Guo was clearly avoiding this sensitive subject. After all, no matter how clear Su Muqing's position stood, she was their opponent this match. Even if she faced them as a professional, what type of feelings did she have in her heart? As a result, Chen Guo felt like it wasn't good to talk about glory. After entering the venue, both teams had people specifically to receive them, and Su Muqing had to go back to Excellent Era. The two teams were led to their lounges. The appropriate arrangements had already been set up in the venue. The two sides each had 2 hours to get used to the setup. Team Excellent Era said that you guys can enter the stage first to familiarize yourselves with the setup. The employee passed on the message. Okay. Thank them for us. Yishu nodded his head. Okay. I'll relay it to them. Quote. The employee immediately left. The people in Happy wandered around their huge lounge. Even Wei Chen was deeply moved. In his generation, even pro teams didn't have such luxurious conditions. Stadium? What a joke. At that time, who had such nice accommodations? Finding some sort of building that could house a few hundred or a few thousand people was enough for a match. It hadn't even been 10 years since then, and teams now had their own arenas. Glory's growth could only be described as rapid. Not bad. Not bad. Really not bad. Wei Chen touched and looked around. His spirit was trembling with excitement as he waved, come on. Let me see what the setup is like on stage. Everyone in Happy left the lounge and walked through the player passageway to arrive at the stage. From the audience's seats, there wasn't much of a difference compared to the previous venue. The accommodations were about the same. However, the decorations were completely different. The player preparation areas were all on the south side. The stage was split on the east and west. The center of the stage was a vast empty area, where the holographic projections could be shown. After nearly a season's baptism, the holographic projection technology was quite mature. Those in the crowd would absolutely have a different experience than those watching at home. It wasn't just as simple as the atmosphere. After this change, the number of seats filled up in a stadium soared. The alliance and the various teams had benefited greatly. This method would continue to be improved. After Happy walked around their preparation area, they went towards the stage. For the players, the empty area in the middle for the holographic projections wasn't important because they wouldn't be able to see it in the middle of a match. The stage was their true battlefield. Each side had 6 booths for the maximum number of players inside a team competition. The computers in front of the seats were all set up uniformly. It was an alliance standard. Players could bring their own mice and keyboards. It was easy for them to plug those in. However, before the match, they would undergo an inspection to see if they complied with the alliance's regulations. If a player forgot to bring their own equipment out of carelessness, there was no need to worry. The alliance wouldn't cancel the player's qualification to compete. The player could borrow a teammate's or use standard equipment provided by the hosts. The players could start warming up on stage. The necessary inspections had already been done. The regulations for this year's Challenger League finals was quite strict. It was completely in line with the Pro League. Everyone in Happy went to their side. They turned on the equipment and tried them out. Even Chen Guo got to experience the feeling of a pro player playing on stage. After checking out their equipment, they left and saw Wei Chen standing alone on stage staring blankly at the rest of the stadium. Chen Guo didn't go up and bother him. She learned from Wei Chen and looked around. A retired old soldier like him had never thought he would return to such a familiar scene, but such a scene was happening today. What was he feeling right now? Chen Guo turned his head to look towards Wei Chen. Then, she saw Yishu also standing next to him. The two seemed to be having a good time smoking. The The smoke swirled into the air for everyone to see. Chen Guo was speechless at these two. Can't you leave some room for others to get emotional? Although Wei Chen had never been on such a large stage, as a veteran of the scene, he had frightening adaptability. He wasn't like the young ones who checked out each seat curiously. 2 hours soon passed. Team Excellent Era's players could be seen. In reality, the warm-up for the two teams didn't conflict with each other. The 2-hour time limit wasn't really a time limit. If a team wanted to spend another hour, it wouldn't violate any rules. It was just that right before the match started, all of the equipment would be inspected one last time. At that time, players were required to leave. As a result, Excellent Era saying Happy could go on stage first was an unnecessary courtesy. Their arrogance as a powerhouse showed. Only the players from Excellent Era came to warm up. Dao Zan didn't follow along. When they saw that Happy was still there, they didn't say anything. After taking a look at their preparation area, they went to their area on stage. Just when Happy was about to leave, someone in Excellent Era suddenly said, "Hey." Everyone in Happy stopped. It was Sun Shang, who refused to give up even after being ridiculed numerous times. Ever since the offline tournament started, I won every match 1v5. Sun Shang held out his hand and waved it. Tonight will not be an exception. This kid is hopeless. Chen Guo was helpless. Even she remained aloof at Sun Zhang's taunt. Sun Zhang's cried, "The wolf is here," yet the wolf never came. Who knew how many times this joke had happened? Everyone in Happy ignored him and left the stage. At 8 p.m., the Challenger League finals officially started. Chapter 1000. A 3v1 arrangement. As expected, the finals didn't disappoint. There was still an hour left before the match officially went underway, yet the Liulisang Sports Arena was already completely packed. This was an Excellent Era's home stadium, but the influence of a powerhouse was not something those at the level of Jade Dynasty or Mysterious Fantasy could compare to. In the finals, Excellent Era's fans gathered together. There were plenty of local fans and City H's most loyal fans, who would always follow the team into battle as Excellent Era's Iron Fan Army. They too graced their presence for this match. Banners in support of Excellent Era could be seen all throughout the stadium. However, those hoping for tonight's victory were in the minority. More of them were pointing towards next year, pointing towards Excellent Era's sweep through the alliance. Just like the survey had found before the match, even though many were hoping for Happy to win, more people's predictions favored Excellent Era. As Excellent Era's most loyal fans, how could they doubt the superior team? In comparison, those who hoped for Happy to win just wanted drama. Cheer for them? They were afraid that others would think of them as idiots. Despite the trend, there just happened to be a bunch of idiots. Among the sea of Excellent Era banners, that bunch held up Happy's logo high and shouted that Happy would topple Excellent Era. They became the joke of the surrounding people, but they didn't care. They were staunch supporters of Happy. The players and the characters from Team Happy had a connection that stemmed from the game. Happy, Happy, 7 Fields led everyone to shout with all they had. It was a reminder to everyone, don't ignore Happy. Excellent Era's fans quickly discovered this small group of reckless people and flung all sorts of insults and biting remarks at them. 7 Fields and the others remained unmoved as they continued to express their support for Happy. At 7:30 p.m., the lighting in the stadium gradually began to darken. Everyone immediately became excited because this indicated that the match was one step closer to starting. Whether it was the broadcast or the holographic projections, all of them required light. Watching a glory match was similar to watching a movie. As soon as the match started, apart from the stage, everything else would be pitch black. If not for these conditions, it would have been very difficult for Yi Shu's face to not have been revealed after so many years of playing. When the lights went completely dark, the host began calling for the players to come onto the stage. First up was Team Excellent Era. The person at the front was Xiao Shikan, who had transferred to the relegated Excellent Era because he was confident about Excellent Era's future. The spotlight shone on the player passageway. Xiao Shikan walked out and waved to the crowd. He was no stranger to this scene, but it had been a year since then. When he saw the projection of Life Extinguisher appear next to him as he walked out, even Xiao Shikan felt fascinated. The brought-to-life character made a heroic battle pose. The crowd applauded. Afterwards, the spotlight shifted to Excellent Era's second player. The holographic projection on stage also changed. This was the new way players came onto the stage. The crowd spirits were thoroughly ignited. Excellent Era's fans cheered. The last player to come out was Sun Xiang. He and the pose struck by his character One Autumn Leaf made the crowd's cheers reach its highest point. After Excellent Era was happy. When the host announced their name, the stadium erupted with boos. When the host introduced Happy's first player, Yi Shu, the boos reached its highest point. There were even curses and insults thrown in as well. When Yi Shu's character, Lord Grimm, appeared on stage, the crowd roared in laughter. It was just a model, so the proportions didn't need to be rescaled. The character was larger than a real person. As a result, the character's equipment was even more clear, and the joke that was Lord Grimm's mix and match equipment was magnified. Lord Grimm's equipment was all level 75 orange equipment, but it included cloth, leather, light, heavy, plate armor. How could the crowd not laugh? Such a dress style was too much of a novelty. The crowd became even more hectic with their laughter. As Excellent Era's fans laughed at this set of equipment, they continued to curse at the ungrateful traitor. Some fans even tried to rush on stage, but were quickly stopped by security and kicked out. Towards such a controversial match, the organizers had made plenty of preparations towards possible behavior like that. After Yi Shu, the boos towards Happy clearly lessened. At the end, when Luo Jian and Wen Yi came onto the stage, there was practically no noise at all. Seven Fields Group continued to cheer, but in this packed stadium, what noise they could make was rather small. After introducing the players, about half an hour had passed. The two sides sat at their respective benches. At the player preparation area, Excellent Era's boss, Dao Zhan, personally came to watch over the match. Before the match started, he once again came over to give a polite greeting to Yi Shu. Under the gazes of so many Excellent Era fans, he had to put in enough effort. Soon afterwards, it was time for the final preparations before the match. The list of who would be playing in which match had been set. It could not be changed anymore. However, there had been a leak. With the new change in format, the Alliance might change this fixed player roster to teams picking their players at the match continued, but these were all after matters. The usual format would be used in this match. When it was almost 8 p.m., the host called for the first players on each side to go on stage and get ready. Happy's first player stood up. Tang Ru. The first player sent out by Happy was Tang Ru. This was Yi Shu's arrangement. She herself liked it too because the first player sent out by Excellent Era should be Sun Xiang. Tang Ru liked to fight against skilled players. From Yi Shu's analysis, the combo of Sun Xiang and One Autumn Leaf wasn't something anyone in Happy could beat face to face. Yi Shu had formulated many plans. In the end, he decided on Tang Ru first, meeting force with force. If the fire inside Tang Ru was ignited and she went beyond her limits to win, then that would be great. If not, with Tang Ru's battle mage style, Sun Xiang would also have to go all out. As a result, the second player sent out would be Mo Fan. Mo Fan's quiet and extremely patient style would make it so that Sun Xiang would have nowhere to vent all the pent-up energy he had from the previous match. That pent-up energy would turn into annoyance. With that mentality, it would be easy for openings to leak. Mo Fan slowly contending with him was the most suitable. Even if he didn't win, Wei Chen would be up third. His shrewd and dirty style would be enough to deal with the extremely gloomy Sun Xiang. Tang Ru, Mo Fan, Wei Chen. These three were the first three players in the group arena lineup. This arrangement was to deal with Sun Xiang alone. Even though Sun Xiang had yet to beat them in a verbal battle, that wouldn't make Yi Shu underestimate his skill in glory so much so that he even arranged a 3v1 specifically to target him. Tang Ru headed towards Happy's booths on the right side. At the same time, the matchup for the first round in the group arena was announced. Team Happy, Tang Ru, Battle Mage, Soft Mist. Team Excellent Era, Xiao Shikan, Mechanic, Life Extinguisher. Xiao Shikan? Hearing this name come out, Tang Ru stopped in astonishment. She turned her head to look. She hadn't walked far yet. She could clearly see from Excellent Era's bench, the person who was about to go up was that one wearing glasses, the player who looked like an intellectual. It's not Sun Xiang? Tang Ru wasn't the only one surprised in Team Happy. Everyone looked towards Excellent Era's bench. Their expressions of surprise made Sun Xiang delighted. Sun Xiang was clapping and laughing out loud. He was pointing at Happy as if they were monkeys at a zoo. You thought the first player to be sent out would be me? You've been fooled. Ha 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 ha. Sun Shang wasn't going to let this opportunity pass and immediately called them out. Xiao Shiken turned his head to look at Happy and smiled. Then, he turned his head back and headed towards Excellent Era's booths on stage. Happy didn't underestimate Sun Shang, but from the looks of it, Excellent Era didn't underestimate Happy either. Was Sun Shang provoking them with a 1v5 intentional? Or did the team make adjustments because of his brainlessness? Trying to figure that out was pointless at this time. Sun Shang not going first made Happy's battle arrangements pointless. What's worse, Excellent Era very likely read Happy's likely plan and made their own counterplan. Xiao Shiken vs Tang Ru? Just from this matchup, Yi Shu could smell hints of a counterplan. Having a highly intelligent tactician deal with a battle fanatic like Tang Ru was most definitely the correct choice, but then again, an intelligent player like Xiao Shiken wouldn't be on the losing side towards any type of playstyle. Him leading might just be a safe arrangement. The unexpected arrangement disrupted Yi Shu's plans. He had to analyze the situation. Even though the lineup had been set, he could give different instructions to the players depending on the circumstances. Yi Shu looked towards Tang Ru. He saw that when she found out that she would be facing Xiao Shiken, she let out a rather regretful expression. Yi Shu understood Tang Ru's expression too well. It was just that she was giving out this expression towards a player like Xiao Shiken. If the other side knew, who knew what they would think? Xiao Shiken was an all-star player too. Even if his title as a master tactician stood out more, even Sun Shang wouldn't be certain he could beat him in a 1v1. For a player of this caliber, let alone Xiao Shiken, even if Zhang Zhenji came over with his cleric, it would be hard to say what the result would be.